In today's video, we will be discussing project risk management, the different steps in project risk management, and the deliverables each of those steps produce. This video was created by Hussein, Elena, Tabitha, and Catherine for IST302. We are going to start with what project risk management is. It is the identifying, analyzing, and responding to risks that may arise during the project lifespan. These risks affect the deliverables of project objectives. The main goal of project risk management is to minimize potential negative risks while maximizing potential positive risks. There are three types of risk takers people can be placed into. These types are risk-averse people who have a low tolerance for risk, risk-neutral people who have a good balance between risk and payoff, and risk-seeking people who have a high tolerance for risk. The 7 steps in project risk management are planning risk management, identifying risks, performing qualitative risk analysis, performing quantitative risk analysis, planning risk responses, implementing those responses, and monitoring the risk. The first step in project risk management is planning the risk. This is the process of deciding how to approach risk management activities and plan for them. The main output of this step is the risk management plan, which documents the procedures for managing risk throughout the project. In addition to the risk management plan, many projects include contingency plans, fallback plans, contingency reserves, and management reserves. Contingency plans are predefined actions that the project team will take if it identifies that a risk event occurs. Fallback plans are developed for risks that have a high impact on meeting project objectives and are put into effect if attempts to reduce the risk do not work. Management reserves are the dollar amounts included in a cost estimate to allow for future situations that are unpredictable. There are some common sources of risk during an IT project. Some of these include cost risk, which is due to poor cost estimating accuracy and scope creep, schedule risk, which are activities that will take longer than expected and have a possible loss of competitive advantage, performance risk, where a project will fail to produce results consistent with project specifications, and people risk, which is not having people with the appropriate skills to complete the project successfully.
In this slide, the breakdown structure of an IT project can be seen. The IT project is divided into its main categories, and these categories are organized into subcategories for each main category. The second step to project risk management is identifying risk or risk analysis. This is the process of identifying and analyzing potential issues that could negatively impact key business initiatives or critical projects in order to help the organization avoid those risks. The main outputs include the risk register, risk report, and project document updates. There are a few techniques that are employed to identify risks within a project. The first technique is brainstorming. This is a technique that provides a group of individuals a platform to generate ideas for a particular problem without any judgment. This will help create a list of risks that will be addressed later. Another technique is Delphi. This is an approach used to derive a consensus among a panel of experts to make predictions about future developments. This is a systematic, interactive forecasting procedure based on independent and anonymous inputs regarding future events. This uses repeated rounds of questioning and written responses, including feedback to responses in earlier rounds. The third technique for identifying risks is interviewing. This technique collects information face to face via phone, email, or virtual discussions. The final technique for identifying risks is SWOT analysis. This analysis stands for Strength, Weakness, Opportunities, and Threats. This tool helps the identification of positive and negative risks that apply to a project. Once these techniques of risk identification are employed, a list of identified risks is created. This list will be used to create a risk register. A risk register is a document of potential risk events and related information. This document can include the following information on all potential risk events: an identification number, a rank, the name of the risk, a description, the category, the root cause, and triggers. Another critical output of identifying risks is the risk report. This is a report that examines overall project risks and the uncertainties of the project as a whole. A risk report includes overall project risks, important drivers, overall risk exposure, summary of risk events. The third step to project risk management is performing qualitative risk analysis. This involves prioritizing risks based on their probability of occurrence and impact. After identifying risks, project teams can use various tools and techniques to rank risks and update information in the risk register. Most risk management solutions have distinctive categories of risk, all depending on how probable and impactful the risk could be.
A probability or impact matrix is used in qualitative risk analysis to assess the risks that need immediate attention based on the probability of the risk occurring. The fourth step is performing quantitative risk analysis. It involves the development, numerically estimating the effects of risks of the project objectives. This process can be done together or separately from performing qualitative risk analysis. A decision tree is used in qualitative risk analysis. It is a decision support tool that uses a model of decisions and their possible consequences, including chance event outcomes, resource costs, and utility. It is one way to display an algorithm that only contains conditional control statements. Expected monetary value is the product of a risk event probability and the risk event's monetary value. Monte Carlo analysis, a risk quantification technique that simulates a model's outcome many times to provide a statistical distribution of the calculated results. Sensitivity analysis, a technique used to show the effects of changing one or more variables on an outcome. The fifth step is planning risk responses, taking the necessary steps to improve opportunities and reduce threats to the project objectives. This includes developing options and defining the negative risks and positive risks. Strategies are developed to reduce negative risks and to enhance the positive risks. There are 5 responses to negative risks. These include avoidance, acceptance, transference, mitigation, escalation. Risk avoidance. It involves eliminating a specific threat or risk. This happens usually by eliminating its causes. This is a good strategy for when a risk has a potentially large impact on your project. Then there's risk acceptance, accepting the consequences if a risk occurs. This is a good strategy to use for very small risks or risks that won't have much of an impact on your project if they happen and could be easily dealt with if or when they arise.
Risk transference is shifting the responsibility for its management to a third party. As for risk mitigation, it is reducing the impact of a risk event by reducing the probability of its occurrence. And it is the most widely used risk management response used. There are 5 responses to positive risks. It starts with exploitation, then sharing, enhancement, acceptance, and then escalation. Risk exploitation involves doing whatever you can to make sure that the desired outcome from the risk occurs. As for risk sharing, it is distributing the ownership of the risk to another party. Risk enhancement is increasing the size of the opportunity by exploiting the key drivers of the positive risks. When it comes to risk acceptance, it is accepting the consequences if a risk occurs. This is a good strategy to use for very small risks, or risks that won't have much of an impact on your project if they happen, and could easily be dealt with if or when they arise. When it comes to risk escalation, it is always best to notify the higher level of authority, and if the risk is outside the scope of the project, it would be best escalated to a higher level manager within the organization. Implementing risk responses involves implementing risk response plans. Outputs include change requests and project document updates. This makes sure that every update that's created during the project is documented and is continually being monitored. Monitoring risk involves constant supervision for the risks that are out of control of the project manager, such as environmental risks. These are the references that were used to complete our project.